Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today, we're going to look over this Threads account. It's Diets Don't Work, Haze One. And I want to go ahead and look at some of their threads, I guess. I haven't looked at this site at all, but we're going to go ahead and go through some of the points that are interesting to me and just kind of argue against them, basically. It's kind of typically what we do here. I just needed to do a video before the gym, so to speak. But I don't know. We'll see what happens, you guys. So the first one here is your body size does not determine what you're allowed to eat. So this is very, in my opinion, this is somewhat ignorant. So it really depends. I will always say on this channel, it really depends on how healthy you are. So if you are, and I don't know about this allowed as well. Yeah, ask my doctor, pretty much. So I don't know what the allowed is. Like, are we being locked up in camps in the United States? What do you mean allowed? I think you need to get over the extra when it comes to that statement. But I would say your health does determine like what kind of junk food you can eat or what kind of things you can process okay and not have it be a really harmful thing. And again, it's the amount of times that you have junk food or the amount of times that you do something, the amount you have, like it's a lot of factors. But yeah, so let me go ahead and move on. I just find that a weird statement to start out with. Okay. Be careful of the wolf disordered eating in sheep's wellness/lifestyle clothing. Clean eating, paleo, fasting, keto, macro counting, gluten-free, not celiac, and so many more. So I think that this is really, really bizarre. Really, really, really bizarre to say. I talk a lot about BED on the channel, especially this year. It's definitely something I'm focusing on. And what people that have BED do is they follow a diet, but they follow the diet in the most unhinged, unhealthy way you could ever follow a diet. So I talk a lot about my keto experience, for example. That keto experience was definitely rooted in ED, but I was eating probably 1,000 to 1,500 calories under what I should have been every day that I was doing it. I was very strict, so I had zero carbs. Okay, like the only carb I had was spinach. It was on that level of keto, so extremely strict. I was doing 1 meal a day fasting and then some days not eating at all. So that's a very extreme version of keto. And obviously, it was really bad for me. And I already told you guys I have fatty liver, I have hypothyroidism, right? There's certain aspects that make keto not the best for me anyways to do. So when I did it in such an extreme way, it was very damaging to me. And then, of course, I would stop doing it and then go back to binging and then go back to keto and then go back to binging and go back. And I would kind of do that kind of thing. So I feel like people that have ED, they sometimes project onto other people and say that everybody has it. And you guys will notice on my channel, I will usually only say somebody has it if they're saying something emotional or if they're saying something that is very coded in terms of that disorder. I don't just say somebody who's paleo has it. I don't just say somebody who's keto has an ED. No, that's too simplistic. Certainly gluten-free. I mean, that's just wild. And I don't know. For me, being hypothyroid, being gluten-free was a necessity because how my hypothyroidism affected me is it made me not able to handle wheat really well at all. So I ended up having to be gluten-free even if I don't have celiac because of my hypothyroidism. But again, they don't acknowledge that somebody can have health issues that are not caused purely, or, they can't acknowledge that you can have health issues caused by obesity or caused by ED. So that's why I had to quit eating gluten. I do think I will at some point again in the future, but I'm not going to do it now. Definitely not. I've done paleo before. I mean, like I said, you can do any of these things in an ED way. So I think it's really too judgmental. You have to look at what the person's actually doing, or you have to look at what you're actually doing. I think that's the question here, is really assess, like, am I doing this in a healthy way or am I doing this in an extreme way? And that's how you can tell the difference, I don't know. So I don't see this at all, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I think saying somebody is paleo is not enough information to say that that person has an ED. That is just ridiculous to me. Completely ridiculous. Now, if said person is like, I'm paleo, but I'm taking a break from it this next week and I'm just going to eat a lot this week, but then I'm going to change my diet again the next week, and then I'm going to change it again. And by the way, I don't want any pictures of my body if you take a picture of me. And don't I look really fat today? It's really disgusting. And blah, 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 blah. Like, if there's a lot that's going into it, and then if you question, like, well, are you going to stick to that diet? They go, yes, I will. Of course I will. What do you mean? Like, if there's kind of that delusional, like, if you start seeing that weird line of thing, that logical line going along, and you can see a cycle and you start to be able to predict it, then you may be talking to somebody that has an ED. So it's a specific thing, though. And if somebody's gaining and losing the same 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds over and over again, that person probably has an ED. But you have to look at, like, the signs. There's, like, emotional signs. There's secretive things. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And certainly just saying, I'm paleo, that is not enough. I'm sorry. That is just so ridiculous. Okay. Hating your body won't make you thin, and being thin won't make you stop hating your body. So, I don't really know with this. I mean, I don't know. Once again, I think it's too black and white of a statement. There have been people who hated their body and lost weight. So, is it something that I would suggest? No. I view it as losing weight through adrenal metabolism, which I don't agree with. Because if you do that, if you run on your stress system in terms of weight loss, if you think of weight loss as revenge, if you think of weight loss as I hate my body, if you think of it that way and you lose weight using stress, then your stress system will be taxed. And then if something bad happens in life, which it can at any moment, then you will not be able to cope with the stress and you will start eating a lot because you're stressed. And I wouldn't even consider that necessarily an ED. That's just physicality. You've been running on adrenaline. You need too much adrenaline. So you have to eat more, basically. And then you start gaining weight again. So I wouldn't suggest it. The way that I've lost weight, I don't do it that way, both mentally or physically. As you guys know, I do a pro-thyroid protocol. So I run on thyroid hormone, not on adrenaline. And I've had bad things happen and I can still keep going because my stress system can address the stress and I can continue to lose. So I agree. But to say you can't or that it won't make you thin is not true. You can lose weight on adrenaline. You absolutely can. It's just a matter of, can you keep it off? And typically people who are smaller, they typically can keep it off. So I don't know. I mean, it's too black and white of a statement. So I would provide more nuance. Being thin won't make you stop hating your body. For some people, it does. It depends. Not everybody has an ED. I feel like I get accused now of saying that everybody does, but not everyone does. For people who don't, when they lose weight, they're unhappy being fat, and then they lose the weight, they're totally happy. And that's it. It can be a straight line. If you have an ED and you're not, like, figuring out your stuff and you're not dealing with the psychological aspect, part of an ED is hating your body. Part of it is fixating and hating your body, even if it is binge. So that's still a thing. And if that's the case, then yes, I would say being thin won't get rid of your ED. That's what I will say. So I will edit what they said and give a different perspective. But if you don't have one and you're simply unhappy with being overweight and then you lose the weight, you're probably going to be happy. So again, this is a person that is projecting it onto everybody. That's not necessarily true. Like this person here, incorrect. I like myself now. It's right there. But you have no freedom with food. Life of restriction is not sustainable. I looked at your profile. Look, this is teenage, weird, immature logic. It either is sustainable or is not. If the person is sustaining it, then it is by definition sustainable. There are many people who have kept weight off 10 plus years. That by definition means that what they're doing is sustainable. You could argue that certain restrictions are not healthy. You could argue that certain things are not good. That's fine. Make an argument, right? But you can't say something isn't sustainable if somebody is sustaining it. Like I said, it's too black and white. I think this person is talking way too black and white about everything. Somebody responded, I still eat all my favorite foods, especially pastries, just not every day. And because I don't eat pastries every day, I buy the super fancy French bakery pastry instead of the soggy, bland 6-2-box grocery store kind and enjoy it so much more than I used to. Portion control and mindful eating have been deeply healing to a relationship with food I didn't realize was broken. It was the first step toward addressing the rest of my mental health issues. I will happily live like this forever. That's great. That's so good. I think that that's a beautiful comment. I always will say we need to address physical and mental together, especially, I don't know if this person had an ED. They probably had something else, but maybe they did. I don't know. But in the case of ED, you need to work on it as you're getting your weight normalized. Okay, wherever it's at on the spectrum. But I think that this is a beautiful comment and I'm very happy for them. And it's just that simple. I think it makes sense. I think this would work for most people. Something like this. For me personally, I can't see myself buying something like that just because of what I've experienced and I'm kind of scarred by the whole seed oil thing. Like I am really, I rode that train to the end and I stared into the eye of Sauron. That is the end of the path of seed oils. So I will probably never go back for the most part. Now there might be a moment where I have a little something sometimes, but a pastry for me personally, it would be too much. I would probably make my own, but that's me. That's not something I would enforce on someone else. I think most people that are thin and healthy and whatever and had lost the weight and are fine, they're going to be fine having a pastry once in a while, even if it has seed oils in it. You get what I'm saying? So it's definitely a ratio. It's definitely a gradient. It's not black and white. It may be black and white for me, but that's just because of what I've experienced. That doesn't apply to everyone. And like I've said many times, I'm not bothered when people eat it around me. It's just a personal thing. Like I said, you haven't seen what I saw. You didn't experience what I did. It was horrifying. It was horrible. Like honestly, truly. So that's the thing. Anyways, let me see. I'm going to move on. If diets or medication, they would never be approved due to their rate of failure. I don't know. It's cringe. Really cringy to me. The only way to curb a food craving is to eat that food. No, usually it's something similar. It usually has to do with you need something. So like if I crave candy, do I need the candy? No, I need sugar or I need some kind of carb. That's what I'm needing. If I crave cream or dairy or something, then I'm craving something in the cream or dairy. It's not about the actual food itself in terms of your body. It's about what's in it. So maybe if I'm craving dairy, I'm craving iodine, I'm craving protein, I'm craving calcium, it's like that kind of stuff. So you have to look at it more so that way. So it's like if I was craving a pizza, I could make a pizza out of like cassava flour and make my own tomato sauce and put cheese and pepperoni on it and whatever. That would fulfill that craving, but it doesn't have to be Domino's pizza, is what I'm trying to say. Because what my body's likely craving is probably the meat and the cheese on there, truthfully, and then the starch. And the body doesn't really care that much about where it comes from. It's craving the actual nutrients and the actual stuff within that, which, by the way, I have been craving pizza lately, so I might make that at some point. But I'm just saying, I haven't yet because it's a lot of calories. And I'm like really in my weight loss era right now because it's summer, it's the solstice time, and I am feeling it. I'm feeling the burn off, going a little cray-cray. Okay. There is nothing wrong with our bodies. There's a lot wrong with the messages that try to convince us otherwise. I don't know about that. Like I said, I think it really depends. When you say nothing wrong, like, do you acknowledge that anybody can be unhealthy in any way? Do you acknowledge that any person's body would need any treatment of any kind? If that treatment was required, does that mean there's something wrong with the body? I mean, it just doesn't track. Okay. Let's see. When diets fail, we blame ourselves and not the diet. This is the genius of diet culture. I can somewhat agree. I think if a diet, like I said, I think most of the time that people can't sustain a diet, it's because they're doing it way too restrictively. And it's like way too much. So you just have to find what you can live with, basically, and what feels good kind of thing. And yeah, I would have my suggestions. Everybody would have their suggestions, right? But at the end of the day, what I tell you guys is if you're trying to lose weight, you have to find the right macros and right combination of foods that you can do a deficit in. And that's it. If you do the deficit, you'll lose weight. Okay. What happens when you diet? Slowed metabolism, binge eating, disconnection from your body and its cues, weight gain, food and body preoccupation, perpetuation of weight stigma, internalized fat phobia, and the thin ideal. Wow. Okay, this is wild. So again, I feel like this is very, very, very black and white. So let's go ahead and edit this. What happens when you diet in an ED way? Okay, then we can think, okay, yes. See, now this makes sense, right? Okay. So we're cutting out entire food groups. We're getting really, really restrictive, right? We're eating way beneath our caloric needs. Then this is going to end up happening at some point. Or maybe this, we're eating tons, like in my case, I'd have tons of diets that were very anti-thyroid, that would undermine thyroid health constantly. For years, I did that. And then I'd binge and those foods would undermine my thyroid health. So it's like I'm undermining it on both sides. So yes, my metabolism slowed from that activity. But again, I had an eating disorder, a very severe one. So yeah. Disconnection from your body and its cues. I don't know about that. That sounds weird to me. I feel like that's something that people just say because at the end of the day, like, can you really just not feel your body's hunger, for example, or do you block it out? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to choose to ignore it. You have to choose to do this or choose to do that, in my opinion. But with that being said, I never had a restrictive ED, so I can't speak on that side. But what I would say is, when let's say today, if I wanted to eat more calories than my limit, if I say no, that's not disconnecting me from my body. That's too far. That's too far of a statement. I still can feel the craving, but then it goes away. If I was doing overly restrictive diets and then binging, that is disconnection from my body on both ends, because the body doesn't want either one of those. It doesn't feel good either way. It feels awful regardless. So in that situation, yes, I would say it is a disconnection, but it's because you're not focusing on your body. You're focusing on your emotions, or you're focusing on something else, or you're focusing on something that's out of control, or you're focusing on other things, but at the same time, you're using it to distract. So in that situation, yeah, that's a disconnection. But your average person that's counting calories, that's not a disconnection. It's too far. Weight gain. Like I said, this would typically happen within BED. I don't think every single person that does a diet gains weight because they did it. It's not true. It's too black and white of a statement. It's too far. You're pushing it too far. Food and body preoccupation. Once again, this is ED coded. Not everybody has that. Having a diet, doing a diet is not having an ED. Even with me, I don't constantly think about my body. I don't constantly think about food. I don't. In fact, I'll just think about, okay, what do I want to have? Okay, I'll have this, and then I eat it, and then that's it. I don't spend hours looking in the mirror. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't, you know? I do think when you're losing weight, you can have a bit of anxiety. And I think it's good to put that anxiety on something else. Like currently right now, I'm feeling weird, from the weight loss, but I'm going to watch a horror movie. So I'm going to take that weird weight loss anxiety I'm feeling and project it onto a horror movie tonight. And that's like an outlet for that. That doesn't have to do with eating, and it doesn't have to do with focusing on my body. So it's like you can find other ways to deal with those weight loss side effects, which I did a video on weight loss side effects yesterday. So check that out if you're interested in that. But that can be a weight loss side effect. But again, that's not an ED. It's not. It's a weight loss side effect. Having a little bit of anxiety. Don't let that anxiety be about your body. That's not helpful. Okay? Perpetuation of weight stigma, internalized fat phobia, and the thin ideal. This is just word salad. This is just like blah, 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 blah. That's what it sounds like to me. So this doesn't mean anything. We'll do a couple more. Dieting means living in fear. Fear of food, fear of weight gain, fear of not being accepted as you are. I don't fear any of that. I feel like if I were to talk to this person, they'd be so pissed at me. I don't fear any of those things. I don't fear food, because why would I? Food isn't going to come out and bite me. Fear of weight gain, I don't, because I don't have an ED anymore. I'm in control. I know I'm not going to gain weight. It's not something that I fear at all. 0, which is an amazing thing. Fear of not being accepted as you are. Not a people pleaser. So no, doesn't apply to me. I will say I used to care about that when I was in my ED, but I don't anymore. Gosh, I do think there is a lot of people pleasers that have BED. I think it's kind of like might be a bit of a risk factor. A little bit of a risk factor. Okay, I think that's all we're going to do. Anyways, I will talk to you guys again very soon. I will end on this one because this one I do agree with. Don't put your life on hold because of how you feel about your body. Yes. So this one I always will say, because there will be times where you have to really prioritize your weight loss, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But weight loss from a huge size, especially. So if you are super morbidly obese, for example, it's likely going to take years and you need to still live your life during these years. Also, if you have issues where the only good thing in your life is eating, then you're going to have to fill your life with other things so that you can enjoy it. So you need to kind of spread out a bit and just work on it. And so I think that that's positive. Don't postpone trips or cute clothes because you want to wait until you're thin. I agree with that too. If you have the money for those things, live your life. This is life. It's happening now. Exactly. So that I do agree with. I agree with this one. But with that, you guys, I'm going to go. Have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. I got to get to the gym. I got to go be problematic at the gym. But I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. I hope you enjoyed this. Peace.